We are the Elijahs. And in this area of society, we have the mountain of media, news media, how life is reported, how the news is reported. Baal was a principality that Elijah dealt with. And I believe that Apollyon or Leviathan is the principality over media. Now, Apollyon means destroyer. And that's what he does with the constant flow of negative reports. Negative news, a stream of negativity destroys. It destroys people, it destroys immune system, it destroys hope. Leviathan is the great twister of communication. He's the twisting spirit, and that is, in essence, what the enemy does in media. So I don't know if they're the same, just two different manifestations of the same demon. It really doesn't matter. But he sells the negative twist on everything. And people who are in survival mode, who internally think they're orphans, as most in the world, most think there's been abandonment by God, they buy into that as their survival instinct kicks in. So the news twists things and has us convinced that things are falling apart through what the enemy does. This is front lines work of the enemy. So what does the principality do in media? We're making it clear. He twists, he circumvents communication. He highlights negative, fearful, immoral, anxiety-building events that are taking place around the earth. He spins everything into an evil conclusion. Now, the most important question. Why does the devil do this on this mountain? Why does he twist everything to bring focus only on what's going wrong? I want to get inside his strategic thinking. It's because he's raising an assault against the knowledge of God. He's done that since the garden. Hath God said, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's how he advances. It's how he's given power. He gets our photons as we agree. Remember? Demonic strongholds are arguments, or they're built around arguments that conspire against the knowledge of God. We read that in Corinthians. What does the devil not want people to know about God through media? What face of God does he not want restored to society? The face of God as communicator. God as love displayed as blessings in media. He doesn't want people to know that God has a plan for their life. And that he's able to execute that plan for their life. That's what he's after. So the lie being perpetuated about God in the current media outlets is, you just want to keep it simple, God doesn't have a good plan for us. That's what he wants released into everyone. That's the lie, the big lie. God doesn't have a good plan for us. He doesn't have a good plan for you. That's what he wants. You're watching the news, he wants that to hit you. God does not have a good plan for you. Every time you're exposed to news, the enemy wants that to be your takeaway. He wants you to think, and this is so easy. I know it happens to believers. I talk with them all the time. Like, we're all just victims of random tragedy and crisis. That's what he wants you to feel. The more the news that comes around, the more you watch it, it's like, we're just all victims of random tragedy and crisis. The whole world is falling apart, and my world probably is going to soon as well fall apart. Think about it again for a moment. That's the takeaway to your heart that's taking place when you read most of the news headlines. Ebola is coming, and you could be next. Better wear gloves and a mask when you go on the airline next time. ISIS and terrorism are coming, and you could be next. You're probably going to be beheaded this year. Drought is coming or intensifying, and you're going to be affected by it. It's amazing to see the enemy, even here in California. Right after rain, every time the newspaper says, drought untouched by it. I'm like, why would you say that right now? It's like, I know there's a demonic entity behind that. Like, as soon as we get the rain, they tell us it's not affecting anything. Well, then what was that about? Storms are coming, and you're going to be hit. Gas prices are rising. It's going to kill your provision. Gas prices are dropping. Your provision's still going to be killed. You know, we're all getting happy about gas is down. They say, no, it's bad. What? So you got a demon there saying everything's bad. Unemployment is rising, it's coming to get you. There's a murder on the loose, you're not safe. Bad stuff happens and it's about to assault you as well. That's what you're getting from the news. You see, Apollyon destroys trust in God through the news, through media. The collective heart of a society feels unsafe. And this also touches your personal heart, my personal heart, if we don't watch it. Again, even as a believer, you can find it hard to feel safe if you just news, the way it's done now. So what's the truth that God always wants communicated through every media source possible? What is the truth he wants? And this goes into understanding our Reformation assignment. And it's back to the Jeremiah 29:11. I know the thoughts I have towards you, and they are of peace, not of evil. They are of a bright future. They are of hope. This truth of God must make it into the mainstream of society by the new Elijahs revealing that God is indeed at work with his good plans for us, even when he seems absent. Again, let me explain. It's so important to understand this in general, but especially if you have a media assignment. Society isn't presently operating out of objective news. You just have to know that it's not objective news. In other words, the obvious news is not necessarily the balanced news of the world. It rarely is the important thing taking place on the planet. You know, newsrooms, you may know this, they have an internal motto of, if it bleeds, it leads. Ultimately, it's all about ratings and money. This is the demonics working on the structure there. This means they plan on creating the news out of an anecdotal incident or out of anecdotal incidences that has caused death or destruction or some way is bizarre. Just because it can make us stop and stare doesn't mean it's worth reporting. Just because something is a fact, hang with me on this one. Just because something is a fact doesn't mean it reflects the truth. Facts are based on the micro, on the anecdotal. Truth is based on the macro. Facts present a subjective reality. Truth presents an objective reality. Here's an example. Here's a micro, anecdotal fact. There are thousands of abortions in America every day. That's a micro truth. But that's a micro fact. But the macro truth is they've been steadily declining since 1990. And they're almost half of what they were then. 73% of all abortion clinics have closed since 1990. 87 abortion clinics closed last year. But you notice the difference of what's the effect of a fact taken out of context of the truth. In fact, yes, we have so many abortions. God should judge us, should burn us up as a nation. And that goes around among Christians. Discouragement and the expectation of judgment come from repeating things in that kind of way. And this we hear all the time. Again, I'll say even from Christians, the effect of the immediate fact that abortions are still occurring in society discourages us because we wrongly think that means God is going to judge us severely as a nation. But then what is the effect? Well, I could see it as I was telling. What's the effect of the truth that abortions are overall reducing dramatically? They're at their lowest rate since the year before Roe versus Wade. All of a sudden you get a little encouragement and hope-filled expectation. So the enemy is a master twister of facts to convey a distorted message about life in general. And that then distorts our assurance of God's sovereignty in our own lives. So if the enemy can convince us that everything is spinning out of control and heading towards disaster, it ends up sabotaging our trust that God could really have a plan for our life. Or for sure, not one that he can pull off. Step number one is he doesn't have a good plan for your life. Number two, he really couldn't pull it off, even if he did. I mean, look at all the stuff happening. Everything's spinning out of control. God becomes minimized in our own minds as being subject to all the negative forces in the earth that are harming the world. And we can't give away a correct perspective of God to the world if we don't have one